You had to wait for this play, but it is not good at all. I don't think any of the players will have fun, but at least it's going to be an exciting match at the end of the day. That is all we can say about that one, because it is from the south side of Los Leones, heading up towards Tierra Blanca. Now, if you know your geology, which you should do, and if you don't, it's on the screen. So there you go.
Did you say geology or geography?
I said geography, 100%.
Okay, I'll believe you.
Yeah. It's like geology also woodworks as well, rocks here on the map.
I'll tell you who does know his geology. It's Stone from Vampire. He's been cracking a lot of rocks on skulls this time around. One of the highest fraggers in the tournament.
That is true.
As have Vampire in general.
Yeah, they have been doing very, very well. I think today is a difficult metric to kind of just get a good idea of what Vampire's doing, honestly. I think that yesterday is just such a firecracker of a start of a tournament for any kind of team. Vampire starting the day with 2 chicken dinners in a row. It's very hard to follow up on that type of thing, man. And I think for them to get into today and then put up a pretty stellar performance, like you're on around about, I think it's 55 per day points for them right now. 55 points per day, I would say, is pretty decent. You're just under 11-point average, which is realistically what you want to see. 10-point average, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's pretty tricky to keep that sort of a pace up, especially with that readjusted point system that we've had coming into 2023. Vampire absolutely out in front, very, very close to that 10-point average. In fact,
after
currently,
this game, yeah.
Yeah, currently they are over that 10-point average,
yeah.
which is nice, like you were saying. So, can they keep that up? 120 would be the mark, so 3 points, and they can keep that 10-point average going. Behind them, DRS, Gladiators as well. These are 3 teams that, at this stage, have started to solidify themselves in. Although we do want to see more from Gladiators, their capabilities have been displayed before, and it feels like in this tournament, I mean, they haven't had a chicken dinner so far. They haven't been able to convert as well as we've seen them do in the past. So that's what we're going to be looking out for Gladiators in this last match and going into tomorrow's games as well, because if there's one thing that Gladiators hate the most, it is not qualifying for the next stage of these global tournaments. It happened back in PMGC twice.
Yeah.
In very, very dramatic fashion.
It happened here as well, actually.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. For European Championships. I mean, they were at the top for quite a while, and then that position just got taken over by Fireflux, who did fantastically well. You can't deny that coming through from them. Now, Gladiators do need to make their way through over towards that main tournament. I think they will be happy to qualify into that tournament for themselves. Currently set at 91 points, as you can see. It's still a decent point scoring, because you can see 6th place is 75. So they're around about 15 points behind that cutoff zone for a lot of these teams. But you go further down past 6th place, a lot of the teams underneath them really fall away in terms of points accrued, just because a lot of these big scorers are at the top of the lobby currently. Vampire, 117, gorgeous stuff. DRS still going out on their streak of 101 points now after fixing a lot of problems, because it was funny, they were getting themselves to the end game practically every single match yesterday, but unable to put up those eliminations or secure that chicken dinner. Today, I would say it's a pretty easy fix for them, which is just be a little bit more aggressive. You're making all the right decisions to get to that end game, making all the right rotations. You've certainly done your homework coming into these matches. It's just that extra little oomph that was added. Now, I say extra little oomph as if it's the easiest thing in the world to achieve.
Yeah, just oomph it.
Just oomph it. Yeah, that's all you need. But they have done fantastically well to make that happen today. Now, looking at the circle really quick, John, very far down towards the south side.
Definitely. Definitely. Not the furthest we've seen south, but it's pretty close to it. It's encircling a lot of Los Higos as well. So all the way down on those south islands. Teams up towards the north, that's Alpha 7 over in La Coppereria. Not seeing the Gladiators out there. They did, in fact, drop down the south side, close to, well, doing quite a wide split from South Los Leones out to the west towards Chumacera, towards Minas de Valle. with all 4 of their players playing fairly separate right now. Bigatron are close by to them. You've got Aegon XIA as well. Mazexis also in a little bit of proximity, although it's about 600, 700 meters from Kitsune. It looks like the regroup from the Gladiators coalescing towards the center of the circle, though, so that's good. Kitsune just needs to get back towards them, and they will be able to fight from there. A lot of teams still up the north, though, so there are a couple of paths that they'll have to take. Death Valley, between that Graveyard, Picado, Minas Generalis area, being braved right now by the bombastically bellicose DRS, as they have reformed themselves into such a fragging powerhouse today.
Yeah, and I think that if you take a look at DRS right now, I mean, you can't see them on your map or on your screen currently, but they are making a very early rotate down from San Martin. And I think this is one of the keys to their success, right, is that they're very quick to get looted up and then get moving. The decision-making from this team today has been very, very swift. And I think that's very important when you are a team in this kind of lobby with 18 teams playing. You need to be really quick on your feet, making those decisions on the fly, and then get running, because you know that DRS, they're a team that always has their laces tied. They're not tripping over anything so far, and they know where they'd like to be in the lobby. They're very deliberate on a lot of these movements, which is great to see. DK plus Kia taking a little bit of damage down towards Sem9, but it is Sem9 who is taking the massive brunt of the damage on their side. It's a rotation that's made a lot easier for themselves. It was a bit more difficult on that last Miramar, but this time around, because it is in the circle, heading down towards Los Higos, much easier. There's more time to do it. Sem9, however, being in the way. D plus Kia not happy about this situation.
No, it's far from ideal. 2 players now remaining on the D plus Kia roster. Sem9 with all 4. Rez should be popping off soon. It's Forest and Saden. Forest is such a massive store of power for this roster, though, so they do still have a chance. However, on Miramar, it's very, very difficult to control the ground you need to do when you're rotating in from the edge with only those 2 players.
Yeah, it's somewhat unfortunate for D plus Kia that they run into Sem9 on that area. I think it's a rotation that Sem9 is pretty privy to at this point in time. They've seen it happen quite a few times over the past couple of days. So I think that they just waited on that underside. It is a little unprotected, but if you can get the drop on the team rotating through, just like they did there, it's quite easy to get the eliminations and the knocks. And by that time, yes, Sem9 had taken 2 knocks, but they'd already flushed 2 players from D plus Kia. What do they do at that point? They kind of have to retreat, because this is the only direction they can make it through. And wasting time here for D plus Kia is going to be very bad for themselves. They're going to need to think of a backup plan of how to get into the circle, because we will be shifting to stage 2 very shortly, which is our biggest shift and which will define the rest of the game. A lot of teams hovering around Los Leones currently.
Circle, as you say, just about to pop. FaZe, they have managed to carve themselves out a little spot to keep themselves safe. Not too many players close by to them. They are fairly central, you can see, just to the west of Los Leones. And the circle does shrink. This shrink, it is, as we said, the largest shrink that you see actually across the whole of PUBG Mobile esports, this Phase 2 Miramar circle. But as it stands, this really isn't as impactful as a lot of the other shrinks could have been here, Blank. This eats into where the majority of teams would have been stationed anyway.
Yeah, I think the thing about this circle is that there's Chumacera still involved, right? And there's that rocky outcrop down towards the south side. But there are a lot of compounds, but no one singular priority compound. I mean, there's a couple here and there which are better than the others, but mostly we can fit a lot of teams into this lobby, and we might just have a lot of compound play overall, quite flat. There are roads involved, which you will need to cross later on. I think this is going to be quite a fair finish to Miramar, more fair than we usually see, where there's a lot of these fielded areas and one team that controls such a strong position, like we saw Alpha 7 over on that northern side, looking down to a lot of the squads who had to pass over pretty open terrain. It's very difficult. DRS, though, again, now defending their position. Low-key, trying to take some good shots over that way. Romeo Boy just about makes his way into the alley and escapes as quick as he can.
Evading the sightlines of Delta, not the easiest task, but managed nonetheless. Once more, will mount up, but 2 players in the building for Yangon Galacticos. Romeo and Cute Loki. Gianti reshucking the shells back into the DBS. Very handy in a pinch, especially in an urban environment where they find themselves. It is so devastating around those door frames. It's like Mazexis are going to look to try and move in behind through Los Leones. Hop on over to Gladiators, staying pretty much where they decided to go after that initial drop blank. They have not moved up north of the road that sits in front of them. They'll play a little bit slower on the southeast side.
Sem9 still down towards the south, as you said. Gladiators off towards their northeast side. Vampire also making their way through from Los Leones on the outer edges on that slope that moves down over towards Chumacera. And Alpha 7 have headed down from La Driera, moving in from that outer edge. I think they want to play a much more safe edge play style. It's what they attempted on day one, trying to go for something a little bit longer in terms of the approach, spending much more time with blue. I think they're still going for that approach today, but they have shortened that amount of time that they're in the blue now. So still making those similar good rotations as I spoke to earlier on the desk. You know, that first 15 minutes is great from Alpha 7, but this time around they're setting themselves up for that success in the late game, which they have been missing out on until very recently.
Circle pops, it heads over towards Los Leones still, so it keeps a lot of those teams who are worrying that they'd have to find their way out, gives them a little bit more time to plan those routes should they need to leave, which is most likely to happen in these next few circles. On that eastern side, FaZe still very much in there. A 2-2 split for Yokohama Donuts Varel. We'll see if they have a little bit better luck this time around.
They had taken such an extremely good spot in that last game. Set up camp, started all singing around the campfire, playing those songs, and they were having a great time. Then they went for the 2-2 split. They left the campfire behind. It was no longer cozy. And at that point in time, I think they were trying to control way too much area, and I think they realized that by the time that two of their players got assaulted by the 3 from Alpha 7. And I think in that situation, Gladiators just disappeared from their heads. Right? They just no longer existed. They completely forgot, went over to deal with Alpha 7, and Gladiators go for a very, very good backstab. And again, you have a similar situation where Gladiators are like, Alpha 7 no longer exists in our heads. And race on over for the loot, in which case they do get taken down. So some sloppy play here and there, but I think overall Gladiators had played quite a fantastic match last game from what was a pretty rough position on their side of the match, pinched between Yokohama Donuts as well as S2G. So it was quite interesting to see them play out. And I was a little bit more confident in their approach until they just sent it.
And they still got a decent point record on that last game either way, so not the end of the world, but it would be good to see the Gladiators get a chicken dinner.
No, just a mini apocalypse, really, at this point in time.
It would be good to see them get at least one chicken dinner during the All-Star stage for the Gladiators.
It would be. Now, one team that I cannot look down upon is Team Falcons. They're doing really, really well. I think they've made some pretty hard rotations into the line of fire of a lot of strong teams, but they just push through it a lot of times. I think that, yes, they don't have extremely good team fighting capability, but it's good enough, and they have set themselves up for some really good fights in the past. Very good utility usage, I would say, and their terrain control is more often than not quite decent. Now, could we get against Alpha 7 off the back of that momentum? I would say that they were looking pretty downtrodden over the past couple of days, but now look a lot stronger. Mafioso does fall, though, on a very aggressive push.
Revo able to make the numbers go their way. Senatexa looking to get the res. Should be able to pick him up here, but unknown from Icurd has the off angle. The circle shifts out to that northwest side, which means that this move forward for Alpha 7 is going to be a little bit easier. And Blank, you named them. You said they were doing well, and you did it to them. Falcons fall in the face of Alpha 7.
I think they're giving it all they've got, Captain, by the end of the day. And I think it's okay to go down here at 18th place. I think they've done very well over the past 2 days, especially on those latter parts of yesterday. to bump up their scorings, because currently in 5th place, 85 points, I would say that that is not bad whatsoever for Team Falcons. They were not looking great at the start of the day yesterday, and they have really picked things up, something proper. Very much making the crowd proud. We're all supporting them here at the arena. Alpha 7, though, did take some nasty shots coming their way, and S2G, they certainly need to step something up. The desk we're talking about, it's not what we expected. There's no more excuses on the line. Not that I would say a medical injury was an excuse, to be honest. But I think this is where they can start to show us all that homework, how it's paid off coming up to this event. All this time they've had to watch these teams. You'd hope that they'd have a very, very good final day. Because right now, I would say in 10th place, 48 points, it is becoming very difficult to breach into that top 6.
Gladiators trying to deal with Sem9 now. Matic forwards. Kitsune a little bit further behind. The rest of them stationed even further back. Tixi and Meku playing backstop on the 2-2 small split here as they regroup up. Playing 3 together now. Tixi still out on that off angle. Depp, he puts the nade right. It could be disaster for Gladiators. That looks pretty on target. A little bit to the right maybe, but the damage could go through. We're waiting for it to pop, and a lot of damage sent over to the Gladiators' health bars. You can see that on the tower on the right-hand side of your screen. But they have regrouped and they have survived. They'll need to move further north, but they are under the watchful eyes of FaZe Clan.
FaZe are constantly in the wings of a lot of these fights, and we've seen before that they're not afraid to send out in towards the outside edge of the zone to take these fights. They are just sitting pretty up on top this side. I think that maybe Gladiators can feel a little bit safer knowing that there is a loot crate up there, potentially teams. Meku steps out, will get knocked. This is not looking good whatsoever. 2 players down. And FaZe are going to pick up all the points as Tixi tries to steal some of them away.
2 eliminations found, but Tixi didn't manage to get any of those done. Kitsune and Tixi, 2 players now alive for Gladiators, and they still need to make the break for it. Kitsune leaves his teammate in the dust and straight into the sightlines of Bigatron as well. Not safe by any stretch, but could just about make it to cover. FaZe Clan, in the meantime, going to have to regroup back up north towards Mormon and figure out their path forwards. Center of the circle now as we hop on over to the rest of the lobby. You've got Infinity IQ, and once again, Yokohama Donuts Varel playing that wide 2-2 split. They've maintained that pressure.
Vampire Esports taking their fight against Yangon Galacticos. Schweppes already finding a little bit of damage here. This is the engagement between IA earlier on. A really good run-up. Kenny, sir, has been very, very good today. And that is not easy to pull off, and he makes it look fairly easy up until the point that FaZe were able to get involved, who have been quite the vulturous team, I would say. There are a lot of times just waiting for these engagements and picking up the pieces afterwards. Wouldn't say it's the most honourable play style, but it's certainly getting them points.
All Pixum and Grubbly, their play today. But if it works, it works, and you can't say fairer than points on the table. On XI8 under pressure from DRS as they swing out to the shots in the shack. IQ wanting to stay alive, but Blade not so lucky. Ghost finds the needle threaded right through his ear. And Tony K leaves Delta to pick up the point. Killer opening up with the vehicle explosions as well. And that is going to be a whole load of points actually going through for Delta and DRS.
I mean, Vampire could have been on around about 9 eliminations so far. They've had a very good start to their game, waiting for these teams to move out from Los Leones, which is something that was going to happen eventually. They knew that these buildings up here can hold 1 or 2 teams. Huge. Nice nade there coming through from Unknown off the top side. Now Alpha 7 with 2 players should struggle to take this engagement versus iKid.
Revo is there though, the star of the show for this Alpha 7 roster. And remember, what we wanted to see from Alpha 7 was to be able to maintain the pace that they'd set for themselves in the last game. Revo leaves Senatexa as bait on the back of the buggy. Does manage to get through for his trouble, sure, and will get ahead of the game for iKid, but facing off against 4, you're going to need to get out of there pretty fast. Heads down the hill, already taken a shot, takes another as well. The buggy is not moving quickly. With the tire out, the speed is not reached fast. And Revo, 2 first aids, needs to find some cover because iKid will be hot on his heels.
Yeah, once again, Lone Ranger vibes for Revo. It's a sad day for this lad. I mean, he has just been on his lonesome quite frequently in these games. But that's just the way the cookie crumbles here today. I think he's been doing very well to keep his team in the balance, honestly. 75 points just on the cusp of 6th place. But 4 eliminations, though, should see them a little bit safer into tomorrow, with BTR hot on their heels in 7th place, 67 points, but they only have 2 players as well, so I think A7 can at least be happy that their 6th place is pretty much confirmed at this point.
DRS are looking to break out of Los Leones. Going across these hills is treacherous, though, and they find out about it when Schwepp opens up onto Delta. A trade back from Mormon of FaZe Clan onto Tony K, though, so a 3-way trade. Delta down for DRS. Vampire with a knock sent their way, but not a full flush just yet. However, they will need to descend from up on high, and likely DRS are right in their way.
I mean, DRS recovering from that explosion on the vehicle. They've got to feel a little bit rattled here. Vampire are looking to shake the cage a little bit more as they just get down towards this compound, hide things out for a little bit longer. But Vampire, yes, 6 eliminations so far. I think that might be up to 7 now after that vehicle elimination. And again, there were 22 eliminations at the start of this game compared to their 44 yesterday. Already, they've bumped that up to 29. So we're looking more and more respectable, honestly. And again, it started all at the beginning of yesterday. Doesn't mean that we can't bump up those points at the end of the day as well. So Vampire looking to really even the score by the end of the day.
I mean, you say even. Match up to their previous performance, I think, is probably fair to say, because right now 7 points. They have now exceeded that 10-point average that we were talking about before already.
What's the difference between even and match?
Can I get back to you on that?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic.
As long as you know.
I'll have to give that a long hard think. I didn't mean it. I'm
he
sorry.
doesn't look happy in the corner there. What were you saying? Carry on.
I can't remember now.
Okay, I apologize. Anyway, Vampire Esports have managed to find their way to the road on that top side. This is actually quite interesting that we keep this roadside in, because the little ridge, as you can see here, is pretty important to a lot of these teams, including S2G. D+ Kia will be taken out by some nades coming through from R8. There was one sent backwards, and now iCurd look down towards S2G, who found themselves in pretty much a pit, and they're going to have to find their way to dig out of this one, because iCurd is not going to let up anytime soon.
They are going to suppress the ridgeline, sure, but S2G, with the players playing close, they have nade advantage, close range. The enemy players from iCurd will find it a lot harder to place these nades correctly down the hill close because of the way the slope falls. So the backup position there is good, and the trades are working out for S2G. Although it does go both ways here as Kelsey falls down. Razy up to that ridgeline as well. Maybe looking to send out wide. Aaron behind the pickup truck there, an unknown on the off angle. Silas caught on the back lines, has to hit the deck and stay out of the fight for the time being. Aaron spotted against 2 from S2G, will not be able to stand up to the test. Unknown not able to trade it off. Kelsey is still down, but it's not going to matter. And a masterfully handled fight for S2G keeps them in the running.
It is incredible to see that kind of stuff come through from S2G, because you just get these glimpses of the PMGC champion sometimes, and you just wonder what has gone wrong. In the meantime, Carry Boy trying to make things right as Yokohama attempt to assault his position on this side of the map. Ragnarok has to step off to that backside. There is one not gone through. Carry Boy really hanging on to this nade for dear life.
Ragnarok as well, cooking one up. Carry close and in danger for the Yokohama Donuts Barrel squad. This is the team that has held quietly on both Miramars so far today and really not been able to convert on the previous one. So let's take a look at how they're going to do here, because they're only facing off against 2 from R8, and Missile down again here. Ozzy-san trying to hide on the inside. Kazimaru, a sneaky little off angle and might prove pivotal in the fights to come. A nade towards the back, but it's not going to find any value. Naoto on the top floor as well. Ragnarok repositions, breaches the corner now. Kazimaru doesn't spot it. Into the fire, thinks better of it. Sends out wide, bolting through the window, sees the player now. Kazimaru needs to get this knock if he wants to keep his team in it, but goes down instead. Finally, there's a trade, and they are not going to let this one slip away. They are desperate to cling on, and now just Carry on the inside.
Goodness me. Ragnarok got the jump scare of his life as One of the players from Yokohama just jumped on his back as he attempted vault through the window. Trying to drag him out to speak with the rest of his friends. That is terrifying stuff. I can imagine he did definitely regret that one. In the meantime, Carry Boy keeps pulling the pin on that grenade like a stress ball.
S2G starting to move through on the western side. Mormon behind the vehicle. Not going to be answered with a knock there. They're looking for the flushes, and S2G pick up more now. 5 eliminations so far on the game, but FaZe Clan still have threats in the hills. Mela with the Groza, with the DBS. This is a difficult player to get rid of, but with the number of barrels pointed your way, it's going to be all the harder. Finally, they're able to dispatch it. Hamzy G, the only casualty, and there's cover for the res.
Once again, we see this coming through from FaZe Clans. They absolutely melt when it comes to just a one-on-one fair fight between two teams. They are very much looking for these third parties all over the place, and it's definitely getting them points. And if that's the way they want to make that money, absolutely fine. I would love to see them to really try and take some more of these opportunistic plays in these fights. Yokohama spinning in the vehicle mid-air, though.
Seems to have worked out pretty well, because S2G got completely spun for 6. Goodness me. How on earth do you make that work? I've no idea. I've no idea how that happened. But either way, S2G get flipped on, and that is absolutely insane. Who does that?
I am astonished by what I've just seen.
Who does that?
I mean, they were pulling some serious Gs in that moment. That's absolutely fine.
They were pulling S2Gs.
They were pulling S2Gs, maybe even S5Gs in that situation.
Wow, wow, wow.
An incredible play coming through from the Donuts. I think they knew they needed to take that space. They heard the engagement between them and FaZe Clan, immediately jumped on it. Maybe not the jump that they were hoping for, but it certainly worked as the DBS pointed out the window. Goes full 360.
Nothing personal, kid. Teleports behind you.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, who expects a backflipping vehicle to just go over the top? But anyway, we're going to tune back into these 3 full 4 rosters as DRS does finally get dispatched here. Infinity IQ, 4 eliminations so far in the game. Vampire Esports riding strong with 9 on the southeast side, as well as Yokohama Donuts Varel, who are playing pretty spectacularly after that last engagement. 6 on the game.
It's good stuff. I think Max on the desk really wanted to see Yokohama actually pick themselves up a chicken dinner. They've been securing themselves some good positions here on Miramar quite a few times, but Tony K stands up, will completely confirm that elimination over towards Missile. Now, 10 eliminations, there is a potential of another 7 on this match, I believe. If I'm not incorrect, which I'm not. So 17 eliminations total are available now for the Vampires. And I think if they can pull that out the bag, they will have massively extended their league here. And tomorrow is going to be really difficult for any team to try and secure first place.
Point was stolen away there by Infinity IQ, so that brings it down to 60. But still,
I love that they instantly look at Infinity. You've done us wrong.
Give me those points back right now. I'm coming to get them. Ravenclaw actually backed off the ridgeline, though. Vampire, for now, seem to have a controlling position, but if Yokohama Donuts Barrel can move through the ground here, they might be able to stay alive with 2, but Ravenclaw has the angle. Ozisan goes down. Can the point be claimed this time, though? Or will Infinity IQ pinch it away? No. The flush comes through, and Schweppes picks up another as well. The nice little headshot from the M4. 4 players on Infinity IQ and 4 players on Vampire Esports.
Once again, Ravenclaw on the off angle.
Ooh,
looking
big
to
nade.
pick up them eliminations, but yeah, that's a lovely nade over the top. Better than any arc in One Piece. That is crazy.
Oh, and a second one as well. Bensu takes the knee. And a third to bring it home. Schwepp puts the cat amongst the pigeons, and the nade leaves Ferrari dizzy as Vampire look to bleed them dry. The points go their way, and the last one to seal the deal. Why not for a 4th? And Vampire Esports bring it back. The 12th match is massive. The top of the tables is theirs for now.